How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to another video. Okay, this will be a different video, but I just wanted to talk about this thing, so here we are. Seeing some other channels giving their opinions on the modern state of Minecraft, and yeah, we'll be talking about Minecraft today. I suppose that would be a good idea to give my opinion on something I've noticed in the game. Just first of all, I'll try not to be overly negative about the current state of the game, and just point out some of the reasons of why I think the people may say that the game has changed too much, and sometimes these opinions might be nostalgia biased. But there is also some valid points to take into consideration, so let's just jump right into it, okay? Starting with the textures and general look of the game. We should go back to 2019 with the introduction of version 1.14. Minecraft had a radical change to its textures, and this was very controversial at the time. For some of these icons and general art style of the game was considered iconic, not only by the Minecraft community, but by the gaming community in general. I mean, the blocky and pixelated art style gave this old 80s and 90s vibe to the game that made it feel so unique, but in a way, I understand the reason for the change. You see, Minecraft textures were the work of multiple pixel artists, but when the studio was bought by the digital devil itself, Microsoft, they tried to make it look a bit more consistent and unified, and thus, the 1.14 textures were introduced. One of the first things we notice is that they soften the textures and construct a lot, and they look more pleasant to look at in general. Personally, some of these textures look a bit too smooth, and I don't think that most items needed to be changed, while others, like the glass texture, looking way more clear, and the netherrack not being a mishmash of red, blacks, and grey pixels was very needed. And you might think I'm crazy, but at some point, between versions 1.8 and 1.13, Mojang changed the lighting engine of the game, or something about how blocks are rendered and displayed. But this is a nitpick, I know. How the hell could a lighting engine or some rendering improvement change how we look at this game? But trust me, it can. If you look at older versions of another game like Skyrim, the 2011 version, and we compared it with one of the newer releases like the Anniversary Edition, besides the fact that the game is like 3 times larger in file size, the foggy and at times eerie feel that 2011 version had is diminished by the improved textures. I'm not complaining about the changes in Skyrim, okay? I'm just pointing that out. I love how colorful the newer versions of Skyrim look, but we have to admit something. Those who played Skyrim back in 2011 or 2012 know what I'm talking about. Foggy and grey vibe that the game had on older consoles like the PS3 or the Xbox 360 was lost with the newer textures. Yeah, it looks better and it looks way more defined because it doesn't look that old. And that old feeling, should we call it that, is what gave old Minecraft that appeal, if you ask me. Even something as stupid as these light changes in shades of color of the ambience might change how we look at a game. Some people have found memories of beta 1.7.3 and older versions because of the freaking grass color. Older Minecraft textures were very saturated and way more pixelated. Let's take for example the cobblestone texture and the grass color back then. It would make Oblivion's grass look like a World War II documentary in comparison. All of these tiny details add to the nostalgia factor. And that takes us to our second point, world generation. Some of you may have heard it before, about beta world generation being the best, with floating islands and shattered cliff adorning old Minecraft worlds, walking across a forest and finding one of these impossible mountains and make your base or some construction around it. Personally, I've never got to experience any of that. I started to play Minecraft around version 1.4.5. Old Minecraft generation made no sense, it felt unnatural. Unnatural in a good way, and we could argue that there wasn't much biomes to go around, but it really didn't need that much. It wasn't realistic, but it was unique. It wasn't trying to mimic how the Earth looked like. And that's exactly what version 1.7 tried to achieve around 2013. Mountains were corrected to look a bit more realistic. And now we've got some rules and changing the code of how biomes are meant to generate around each other. Now it's impossible to find a desert near a taiga biome. We now have a temperature map where we can find deserts near savanna biomes, near mesa biomes, and we have template biomes like the plains, and we've got cold biomes like the taiga, the cold taiga, the extreme hills, and so on. The extreme hills were changed to look a bit more realistic, and the biome is way more wider now. In my opinion, it's not that bad that Minecraft tried to add more variety. The roofed forests are still one of my favorite biomes to this day, and while I feel that they went a bit too overboard with the realistic part in the mountains, we still have the Savannah M biome with these stupidly tall and cracked mountains. But that's the exception of the rule, and even that, it's a bit exaggerated. And that issue was only exacerbated with the Caves and Cliffs update. Yeah, we're getting into that too. They gave the cliffs a well-deserved glow up, but I think the execution in some parts were definitely mislaid. Let me explain. First of all, we have to remember that prior to version 1.16, Minecraft height limit used to be capped at 256 blocks, but since the Cave and Cliffs update, it went up to 320 blocks on height and all the way down to -64. This may seem like a hot take, but I don't think it was necessary to extend the height limit that much. Yes, it allowed us to have bigger mountains, but, well, I understand the reasoning behind it. It always felt like it was a bit too much. Of course, the slopes and shapes of the mountains in general feel very realistic and very impressive, don't get me wrong. But what do I mean when I say that it was a bit too much? The extreme hills biome back then were medium sized, and you always had flat stretches of land to build a base comfortably. But with the introduction of the Caves and Cliffs biome, New World Generation turned the biomes into what we now know today. But was it really necessary to increase the world height? They could have reshaped the mountain generation. There are dozens of mods out there that make similar terrain without breaking the height limit. Just look at Biomes of Plenty, for example, for a realistic and not that exaggerated mod that changes how Minecraft generates. Besides the exaggerated size of the world, the not so bigger issue are the caves. For they're currently not caves but freaking caverns. In older versions, the cave systems used to be like tunnels and small chamber-like structures sprawling the underground. There was the occasional ravine or some mega cavern right on the open, but these tunnels were designed in a way to fit the player, so it didn't feel too overwhelmed. Think about it, you could go there with 2 stacks of torches and maybe an ender chest. It'll take you a while to light up the whole system and mine the ores. Ravines were a bit of a nuisance, since you would have to climb up to the upper levels and make sure no mobs would spam in the area. Now, how many stacks of torches am I supposed to have to light this up, huh? You might get lost trying to backtrack the labyrinthine tunnels of older versions, but I don't know where to start with this. Not to mention that caves now are 60 blocks deeper, and deep slate is way harder to mine. Don't get me wrong, design-wise these are amazing, but from a gameplay perspective it's too overwhelming. And I don't know if I need to emphasize this, but the world is 64 blocks deeper, and let me remind you that the tool durability is the same. And the space we have in the inventory is the same. I don't wanna get much into it, but you know what I mean. They've been adding more and more blocks to the game, and the current 9x4 slots feel a bit too small, even when building. Now, do you see a pattern in all this? You might say that the game feels clouded. The world didn't need to be higher, the mountains, the majestic, didn't need to be taller. General elevation of the world makes it harder to build and puts a strain on performance. And the new caves are just too realistic, you know? And on the other hand, some of the newer and softer textures give Minecraft a different feel from the saturated colors of older versions, which affects that old game style that old Minecraft had. Now, I'm not adverse to change. I love some of the features they added on newer versions. 1.13 was pretty cool, and I love the water columns mechanics. The Nether update was really great, with a couple of minor complaints here and there, and even if they look kinda empty, I like the ancient cities and the skulk infection thingy. While some of the other features I feel like kinda redundant. Did we really need a turtle to drop Ace Cute, whatever the thing is? Or why they didn't just call it a shell, only to make a glorified respiration helmet? Don't we have an enchantment for that? And look, I'm not saying that mojang in general are taking good decisions. I don't really like the direction they're going with the game. but what I'm trying to get across is that the game we grew up with had simply changed, and maybe newer players appreciate this new Minecraft and see older versions as lacking and dusty in general. Maybe they just like the cutesy aesthetic the new game has, while some of us want to jump back to older version of the game, where the game was simple and less clouded, and maybe add some cool mods to the mix. I don't really know how to wrap this all out, and I feel like an old man talking about how the world used to be better back then, and go on in a nostalgia-filled rant on how a 10-year-old game is unrecognizable to when I used to start playing it. But those are just my thoughts. I don't really think I'll be making more videos like this, but I really wanted to share my thoughts out there with whatever the Minecraft community is doing. Anyways, so remember to like, hit the bell button and subscribe and all that thing that big creators say. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.